You on mute, kids.
I know what it do, all y'all out there. Shout outs to the world. Superflex Fantasy Football Show coming at you on a special Thursday event. Obviously, in the holidays, things are a little bit harder to get things done. Tuesday was Christmas Eve. It's my sister's birthday, so it's kind of a write-off. So we decided to give you guys a little bit of a quick, shortened, abbreviated version of the Superflex Fantasy Football Show here on a Thursday, right running up into that Chicago Bears game. But let's be a little honest here. This, I guess the holidays don't really count in the NFL because there's been football all week long. Football on Boxing Day, football on Christmas, football on Christmas Eve. It's a little bit weird. Normally there's a little bit of a lull during this period of time, but there's been no lull. It's just been powered right through. So we're going to power through as under the same pretenses and chop it up a little bit here about the last week, where things stand by way of fantasy football as we drive towards finals week. Nomad, King of Pop, what do you got to say for this week? How did things go? I know you may well be bumped out at this point, but I'm sure you're paying attention to the NFL.
Oh, no question about it, man. I play for pride anyway. I'm going for a win, and I won this week, so everything is good in my world. But this is a very weird week. Very weird. Football on days you don't expect football on networks you don't expect to see football. Netflix for. First it was Amazon Prime, then it was Peacock. Now it's Netflix, and it's just weird. I didn't even realize there was a game going on until halfway into the second one. And I'm just like, hold on. I'm busy doing all kinds of stuff. I'm like, there's football on today. So I pulled it up and I watched a good second half of football. Lamar Jackson, they just basically, hey, if you're Steelers fans, I feel for you, number one. Number two, there is some nuance to that story by itself that I'm going to get into a little bit later. But one thing I will give your supporters a tip for is in this little condensed couple of weeks span, I think people need to know a few things. And that is knowing what situation the team that your players are playing on, what is that situation? And how much can you count on that individual? You know what I mean? You got to know if they're playing for something or if they're just out there. If they're out there at all, you know what I mean? So it's just a lot to think about. So we'll get into that conversation here shortly. But hey, man, I don't see anybody in the chat. I'm pretty sure most of our supporters, because we're Bears supporters, are watching Bears pregame shows and things like that. But whoever pops in, peace and love to you, and good spirits, man, and happy holidays.
All of the above, good vibes, happy holidays, and it's been a crazy couple of days in the NFL. I didn't even realize, just like you're saying, that there was games on Netflix. We were out at my mother-in-law's doing the Christmas thing, and we just fired up Netflix and we're like, oh, there's football on Netflix, okay. So we started watching, and it was kind of interesting to see. It's kind of interesting to see their panel of humanity, if you will, the folks who are doing the announcing, etc. There's a lot of like former NFL channel folks just kind of wound up, found their way to Netflix for one day out the year. Kay Adams was out there doing her thing. Shout out to Kay Adams. I always love her takes. Nate Burleson was out there. I know he's on NBC every so often. RG3, who I believe was recently let go. It was just sort of a weird collection of people. Drew Brees, who you don't see on TV very frequently.
Yeah.
Who?
Manti
Te'o. Yeah, like it was funny because me and my son was like, isn't that Manti Te'o? I was like, I don't know. I couldn't. I'm not sure if that's Manti Te'o. I wouldn't recognize him without his girlfriend. And my son starts laughing because the whole catfish thing. He couldn't recognize his girlfriend if he tried. Anyways, great joke at the time. We were laughing.
Before you get going, let me remind the people, any of these Superflexers out here that just watch Superflex only and you want to look at some Chicago Bears coverage, man, feel free to come on over right after this is over, because at 6:45 Central, we're going to start the live watch, and we're going to do all that, the pregame live watch, and then do the postgame all in one. So anybody that's here watching the show that wants to watch some some extended coverage, man. We do cover the Bears pretty fiercely. So come on over and check us out right after this.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really what the King of Pop and I do best outside of fantasy football, that is. So by all means, jump in with us or follow along with us as we continue on and get into Bears pregame and then the actual watch party by way of the actual show, considering it's the only major NFL game right now. Come do it with us, right? You could always be listening to Al Michaels. And I say that with a chagrin because I know how much Al Michaels loves to call Chicago Bears primetime games. It's one of his favorite things to do if you can smell the sarcasm from Canada.
I don't know what's wrong with him.
I'm just saying. I'm just ribbing Al Michaels a little bit. Shout out to him and the crew who's gonna do it live there today. But me and the King of Pop, we'll do it better. Stick around with us. All that being said, crazy fantasy week. Steelers had a great game so far. As far as the games that have come through this week, they had a great game. One only to realize that did they win? I think they won.
No, the Steelers.
Did they win or did they get pumped?
Dude, they got
they got smoked against KC. That's what it was.
Right. They got all kinds of controversy brewing down there.
They got pumped, a little bit of a ball on the ground situation went the Casey's way. You're right. They lost, and that loss really hurt them, man, because now they are no longer the leaders in the AFC North. That is now officially the Baltimore Ravens who've taken that away. But it does look like the Steelers likely have a wild card spot. The question is who gets the other one. So should be interesting things in the AFC. On the other side of the game was Houston Texans. Oh, sorry, that was Houston versus the Ravens. And yeah, the Texans don't look like the football team they've been for the better part of this season. And I'm not entirely sure if it was just the world kind of the NFL kind of catching up to CJ Stroud or what maybe it was offensive line issues. They couldn't get anything effective done. And that includes Joe Mixon, who for the better part of the season was running down 2 touchdowns himself personally.
Hey, Kedz, do you remember we did Bears podcast when we were talking about the rookie quarterback we were going to have coming in and what to expect from a rookie, and just because what CJ Stroud did in that first year, don't expect that to continue.
That to happen in season 2. Yeah.
Right. He didn't hit his rookie slump until this year. He's definitely running to that wall for sure. Most of that is him, and it is he's in his head. I don't know if the offensive line is not protecting him well. I've seen a little bit of it. They were getting pretty clean breaks on him and getting back there pretty good. And he's just hitting that rookie wall, the uncertainty around him. The receiver situation has been up and down all year. And Tank Dell just lost for the season.
Yeah.
All that kind of thing. He has definitely hit that wall, and they are not the same team, and neither are the Steelers earlier in the year. Well,
it is what it is. Unfortunately for both of those teams, I think they will go pretty deep into these playoffs. But we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. Steelers are an interesting team when it comes to the playoffs, and so are the Ravens. I think the Ravens have all the opportunity in the world to get something done. Again, if they got to go through Kansas City one more time, it might be a little bit problematic considering what we just witnessed Kansas City do to the Steelers. So we'll see, man. We'll see how it shakes out. Where do we want to go today? Let's take a look at first off. Here. So I'm going to give a shout out to our folks at Fantasy Pros. I generally don't use this tool, but I'm going to use it with you guys today just to sort of give you an idea as to who's allowing the most fantasy football points out there, because when it comes down to these weeks, unless you've got one of the tippy top defenses at your disposal, and under the same pretenses, those tippy top defenses are up against a team that, is beneficial to them. You know, it really points to them winning. You may be looking at streaming a defense, right? And the reason I'm bringing this up is because that's why I damn well lost this week. So, like, I'll give you guys in a couple minutes. I'll give you guys some updates as to where I stand in fantasy football and things of that effect. But keep your eyes peeled on these lower end teams. One of them plays football tonight, folks. And you kind of want to stay away from these teams by way of defense right now. One of them played yesterday, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. Arizona Cardinals leads the league with points, fantasy football points against, and that's really what we're looking at right now. Points allowed, right? Arizona Cardinals, Atlanta Falcons, Baltimore Ravens, which is surprising. I can tell you right now, a lot of folks jumped up early and grabbed that Baltimore Ravens defense, hoping that it would save the day, and it's going the opposite direction. Chicago Bears defense right there, right underneath Carolina. The vaunted Chicago Bears defense right underneath Carolina for points allowed this season. Brutal.
You know, I will say this though, man. This might be a strange take to you and anybody listening, but I always am wary of teams that are playing the spoilers, and wary in a good way when it comes to this. They are definitely playing the spoilers this week. And you, for whatever reason, if that's the only thing on the bulletin board to get hyped about this week, if that could be the only thing, that's the only thing, then you know, we get to put some stuff on a resume today, and they're not gonna have Kenneth Walker tonight. Kenneth Walker is out for the season. They put him on IR. And so I could see a very realistic scenario where they do play the spoilers and knock Seattle out of contention today.
Possible. Again, in a football game like this, it's anything is possible here, to be frank with you. To be super frank, there's no reason why the Chicago Bears lost 90% of football games they lost this season. Do they match up well? Yeah, they do. One more time. I've said it about 8 times this season. They match up well against Seattle. They should be able to compete. I don't know why they haven't been competitive, again, for the better part of the season. Now, you are saying some super intelligent stuff, because that's the other reason why I lost, right? So the other reason why I lost this past week in the Bears podcast league, why I got punted out, was basically because teams at this late in the season may be looking to they may be looking to sit certain players. Okay, so certain players, depending on what the score may, like in a game like today, if this game goes completely sideways and the Seattle Seahawks are just drubbing the Chicago Bears, you might see Zach Charbonnet sit down. You might see Jackson Smith and Jigba sit down. You might see Geno Smith sit down, right? Or be benched earlier. If you're depending on points from those particular guys, it could go the opposite direction. And that's exactly what happened to me this past week. And I'm gonna do you guys a favor. I'm gonna show you. So bear with me.
Yeah, it's you gotta. This is when the nuanced part of what you do fantasy wise need to show up to the game. You got to do your homework. You gotta really look at this stuff real intently.
It's true, man, and even homework sometimes, it may not save you, right? So my past week, this guy here, oopsie daisy, Josh Jacobs. I'm running with Josh Jacobs. I'm up against, at the time, good old Joe Mandel, because clearly I have to go through Joe Mandel to get to the playoffs twice, and it didn't fly this time, right? Second time around, Joe takes a big lead on me, 33 points going into Monday night, and I'm worried. I start looking at my fantasy team, and I'm like, man, all I got is Josh Jacobs. You think Josh Jacobs can get me 33 points on a Monday night? I don't know, but super possible. Let's find out. And the reason I'm saying stuff like that is because in Green Bay, none of the wide receivers really put the numbers up. It's either Jordan Love or it's Josh Jacobs. So I got some faith. Maybe he can do this. I shout out to the guys over at Chicago Clubhouse. I jumped on their fantasy football show with the Crooked Commish Monday night. Was on there doing the darn thing. Took a look at Josh Jacobs. Game started at 8:15. Within about 15 minutes, within a half hour, Josh Jacobs was up to 50% of the points that I need. He had about 17 fantasy football points, and I'm going, holy smokes, this guy's gonna roll through the week and get me my 33 and push me into the playoffs. Go Josh Jacobs. And I'm like, imagine my entire fantasy football season hinges on the shoulders of a Green Bay Packer. And that right there is where I should have known this was not going to work out for me. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, Josh Jacobs pulls out 26 points for me, has a fantastic game, and they bench him because they're just beating the daylights out of their opponent, and they don't need to run him anymore. And that was the end of the day for me, right? So pay attention to little things like that. Folks may be sat just to keep these guys healthy, and that alone might be the reason why you lose out this fantasy football season, right? So wanted to show you guys a little bit of that. I'm going to go back to that defensive share here, right? So guys, teams you want to be looking, would you believe that? Teams you want to be looking at by way of defense if you have to stream a defense. Steelers, everybody's got the Steelers. San Francisco, everybody's got San Francisco. But Seattle Seahawks going up against the Chicago Bears, not a bad look considering they are the number 4 points, not points allowed, but points against, right? So top points allowed, Arizona. Bottom points allowed, 4th from the bottom is Seattle Seahawks. Good look. Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week. Good look. Tennessee Titans, the number 2 defense. Good look. Number 1 defense to take a look at if available on waiver wire in your end of season week 17 situation. Washington Commanders. Pretty sure they're probably very regularly available on waiver wire. I'm going to pull that up there shortly for you guys. But these are the teams that if you got a stream might still be floating around. I was able to pull up to grab up New Orleans Saints, who didn't have a great game this past game. They actually had a terrible game. But I was able to grab them the week before and get about 38 points out of them in a good week. So if you got a stream, you really want to be looking at any of these teams listed here beneath the Minnesota Vikings, because that's really where you're starting into the teams that are just gone.
You know what's interesting to me is how many people sleep on the Commanders' defense. I know for one, they have Dan Quinn, and the most important thing they have, and the most important thing you can have on your defense is a middle linebacker be the leader. And Bobby Wagner is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer that has not missed a step. And people calling him old, and I'm like, every time I see Bobby Wagner play, he's just controlling teams just by his presence, man. So, I mean, the Commanders are an easy pick right about now. And this is when he plays his best, when everything is on the line.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Washington Commanders. Oopsie daisy. Washington Commanders. Why aren't you pulling up? Okay. Sorry. 45% rostered, 29% started. So they're out there, they're available. I have to say, keep your eyes peeled if they are available. By all means, grab them. Same thing with the Seattle Seahawks. This is really a weekly situation for them. I wouldn't necessarily go and grab them all, for long term. They have had a really decent defensive season, don't get me wrong, but against these Bears here today, it could well be a situation. 36% rostered, 26% started. So again, they're out there, man. There's teams out there for you to stream if you're in a bad week situation. Because again, the teams that folks were looking at earlier in the season by way of draft were teams like the Cleveland Browns, those Baltimore Ravens that are up here, Denver Broncos. They're all in the bottom half of the league. San Francisco 49ers, bottom half of the league. Right. So one of the major pieces to all this that I wanted to sort of bring out and discuss today. Any thoughts on that there, King of Pop?
I'd consider, I don't know how rostered Cincinnati's defense is, but going into whatever outside chance they have to get in the playoffs, whether it be through their own, volition or whatever it is, do they need help? Teams like that will show up and be the best version of themselves, whether it be, this is a team everybody expected to be in the playoffs. They're gonna show what they have and whether or not it's enough to get them in the playoffs. I think Cincinnati would be a team I would also look at as far as the defense.
So they're right beneath, like, would you believe it? They're right underneath the Chicago Bears by way of defensive fantasy points allowed, right? So it scares the daylights out of me even suggesting Cincinnati. But Cincinnati does have a matchup against the Denver Broncos this week. That might be the linchpin, right?
I love it.
Might be the linchpin. It's a great opportunity for them to flex their muscle and play like a playoff caliber team, especially by way of defense. But this Bengals defense has not been the Bengals defense of the past, right? It's a different flex this year.
They're dealing with a rookie quarterback, savvy defensive coordinator. They can get him if they can dictate, like if they can play with those edge rushers the way they've been playing recently, they can put some particular pressure on him. They got one of the best edge rushers in the league, period. That's just all it is to it. And that guy with the way they play off of him can cause some particular kinds of problems for a rookie quarterback. You can't forget the quarterback in Denver is still a rookie, and this is when the stakes are the highest right now.
All right. So very well said. Definitely wanted to touch on some of that with you guys. We're going to run through a little bit of injury, just so that you know who's hurt out there. And there's some names of note. First one we're going to start out with is Jalen Hurts. Pay attention if you got Jalen Hurts as your starter. You're going to have to find somebody else to take over that QB position. Keep your eyes peeled in that respect. Tua is nursing a hip right now. He may not be playing. Same case scenario. If you're starting a Tua Tagovailoa, by all means, look for alternatives.
Over for Miami. You don't start anybody from Miami.
Well, I would not. Yeah, you're darn right. I would actually dodge the entire Miami offense with the exception of Devin Achane, right? And I'm pretty sure when we get to him that Jalen Waddle's probably also still out. Anthony Richardson. These are three. Oh, wow. Dorian Thompson-Robinson as well.
And I also heard that the Cardinals were officially eliminated. Maybe we should bring that up too, because there's a lot of Kyler Murray people on here and Marvin Harrison people and all that kind of stuff. James Conner.
Well, I expect them to play good football this weekend regardless, but like I hear you. They've got a little Kyler was talking about just the connection with Marvin Harrison and saying it isn't quite there yet. So, hopefully they get to where they need to be together down the road. But as for right now, these are just some of the more notable QBs to look at by way of injury. If we're looking at running backs, next up I've got Pollard. Oh, Tyrone Tracy is questionable. Folks out there, I was going to actually suggest Tyrone Tracy here today as a as a sleeper if you need a running back, but he's got an ankle. Pay attention to that situation and whether he's able to get up and go. Speak of that devil, there's James Conner who's hurting. Up goes Trey Benson, but he's also got an ankle. So that's who's on the thumbnail. We were going to suggest get yourself some Trey Benson love. And it's funny because we really thought he was going to get the run in Arizona. Like if you'd asked myself or the King of Pop earlier in the season who was going to get the run in Arizona, we would have said in the first couple of weeks, John Connor, but keep your eyes peeled on Trey Benson. He'll sort of step his way up into it, and it just hasn't happened.
No, so not only has it not happened, James Conner has played himself into an extension.
An extension. You're darn straight. You're darn straight. So shout outs to James Conner for his 2024 season, even though the Cardinals haven't made the playoffs. I think he had a fantastic season. Again, secured the bag and and really prevented a really powerful rookie from breathing down his neck and taking his job. So big ups to James Conner. Unfortunately, no big ups to us because we were going to suggest Trey Benson's a guy.
Before you go further, because a lot of people ran out and grabbed Michael Carter because in last week, I think Trey Benson got hurt. I think he had an ankle or something, and he went out and didn't come back. And Michael Carter ended up because James Conner also went out during that game. And everybody, I seen every thumbnail out there, and every one of them had Michael Carter on the front of it. Up until 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, everybody expected him to be the guy that everybody goes and grabs in fantasy. But he was just reverted a couple of days ago back to the practice squad. Now it's straight up Trey Benson, and I think DJ Dallas might be behind him. But yeah, it surely looks like they're being vague right now, saying that he's still a limited member of practice. But it sounds like, I checked out a few podcasts. It sounds like he's going to be ready to play come Sunday. Or
crazy.
Saturday.
Okay, well that's good. I have a special, there's a special place in my heart for Michael Carter. He has saved me by way of fantasy football on multiple occasions. I really was hoping that he'd get some run over in Arizona, but unfortunately, it doesn't quite look that way. So, is what it is. What else do we got out there? Oh yeah, Alvin Kamara. That's like a huge loss to many teams out there. Alvin Kamara went down. Doesn't look like he'll be back anytime soon. Justice Hill in Baltimore, and that explains everything because I'm watching the Baltimore game, and we're getting late into the third, and they're leading handily. And the entire time I'm sitting there going like, "Why are you running Derrick Henry for? Like, what are you running Derrick Henry for?" Well, there's your answer. Justice Hill's out. All right. Otherwise, they would have sat Derrick Henry and let Justice Hill run the situation out.
Nasty flip that he got put out on and caused a concussion. But he'll be fine in a week. I wouldn't be out on Justice Hill.
Okay. All right. That's sort of the bulk of the new running back situation. Let's look at wide receivers, and we're going to start right out quickly with our guy T. Higgins. He's got an ankle. I expect him to play this weekend because I believe we're kind of at do or die for these Cincinnati Bengals. So don't be surprised, even though he has an ankle, that you'll see him play. Tyreek Hill, that wrist has been a problem the entire season. He will probably also play. The question goes back to whether Tua does. So if Tua does not play, don't even really.
Well, I gotta push back a little bit because one sign that definitely is a give that a team is saying mercy I give, Uncle. Is when they were expected to be a playoff team, and so Shaquille, I think it was his name, Shaq Barrett. Shaq Barrett has been out. They signed him to a contract in the offseason, and he retired. And naturally, a team, if there's good graces between the two, would let that player go because he's obviously not, his heart's not in playing with them. But they did not because they were expecting to make a playoff run, and they wanted to have his rights available to them in case he wanted to come back and play and be effective out there. So naturally, the smart thing would be to keep him. And so now that pretty much is a wash, they let him go, and I think he's available to be signed by anybody now. So that's an indicator that they know the season is a wash. I would not depend on Tyreek Hill this week. I think I was saying all that to get to that.
Okay. To that, in that respect, I was going to suggest very similar things. Like he also just hasn't been playing like Tyreek Hill since this wrist injury occurred. It was close in time to when Tua got hurt as well. So do what thou wilt. If you must play him, he's your wide receiver number one. Play him, but if you got somebody else you can rely on, probably better to do that. Wow, everybody hurt, man. Devontae Adams, hip. Terry McLaurin, ankle. Malik Neighbors, toe. So, don't expect much from a Malik Neighbors. You might expect a lot from a Terry McLaurin this week because they're still trying to do things. Devontae Adams, him and Aaron Rodgers seem to have some sort of a connection again. I'm not sure if anybody cares. So take that for what it's worth. They're not going to the playoffs. Only reason for them to play decent football this week is to spoil somebody else, and I'm not entirely certain who they're playing this week. Let's find out. New York Jets. Jets are playing. Oh, good Lord. Jets are playing the Buffalo Bills in division. They're going to get curb stomped. So I don't know, man. Devontae Adams will put up numbers regardless.
You ain't seen a bum rush like what's about to happen to them.
Yeah. This will be a well. You know what? I think we've probably seen it a couple of times this season, but still, it'll be a good one by way of by way of them getting curb stomped by the Buffalo Bills. That's really what's going to happen. Drake London, knee. Drake London really hasn't been doing all that much regardless. Zay Flowers, shoulder. Hit or miss with Zay Flowers, take it for what it's worth. Adam Thielen, hamstring. That just makes that Carolina game potential even worse for Carolina. Need to have that safety blanket, and without it, gonna be a long football game. Bigger names to start to look at. My guy Jerry Jeudy's gone. Jerry Jeudy's been having a fantastic resurgence in the fantasy world. That kind of stopped when they benched Jameis Winston. I'll be honest about that. That died really hard. And now he's hurt, and they have no playoff implications. So I don't expect to see him this weekend.
You know what? When it comes to receivers, let me say this. This is how I would be thinking if I just felt like I needed, if I'm in the fantasy playoffs and I felt like I needed a guy in X Factor to really, really to slide in that slot position and really just blow up out of nowhere and give me something nobody's seen coming. I'm going to look directly at, because you can't count on roster guys. You got to go find somebody that you think is going to come out of the woodworks and just explode. And I got a feeling if I'm in that spot and I need somebody, I would, if I'm just telling you guys, look at Parker Washington in Jacksonville with Mac Jones. That would be somebody I would really pay close attention to. Parker Washington in Jacksonville for. Yeah, that's. I think that's a good look because they have nothing to play for. But Pride, Mac, what's his name? The quarterback is looking for another contract somewhere, and Parker Washington he's emerging, in my opinion, as one of the guys that they need to build with.
All of those things, great little sleeper look there, King of Pop. I was going to get to good old Mr. Washington at some point today, but here he is. Had a couple of decent weeks with Mac Jones under center, so let's think that another decent week will likely transpire again. So keep your eyes peeled on Parker Washington. He's completely unrostered and completely unstarted. 9% rostered, 2% started. You can find yourself some Parker Washington out there on the waiver wire if you're looking. A couple other guys to really actually look at by way of waiver at the wide receiver position. Olamide Zaccheaus. He's also a major reason why I didn't win fantasy football last week. All right, so I had myself some Terry McLaurin love, and Terry McLaurin was doing great things. And out of the woodwork, Olamide Zaccheaus came out and caught 2 touchdowns toward the end of the game, and just had himself a game. He is starting to emerge as a real receiving threat in Washington. He's had some decent games. I can't say that there's a lot of consistency here, but keep your eyes peeled on Olamide Zaccheaus. Probably best I can say. Definitely worth a view, right? So he's one of your guys. Another guy to look at. I'm going to gloss over this here, both of these guys, real quick. So Cooper Rush ain't playing terrible football, y'all. Let's just put that out there. He's not playing terrible football. Could be so much worse in Dallas. But Brandon Cooks is generally just a consummate wide receiver. So if you need some yardage, you might be able to get it out of a Brandon Cooks. Put up 10 points last week. We'll see how he's utilized this week, especially given that CeeDee Lamb is down. I didn't get to CeeDee Lamb in that injuries list, but CeeDee Lamb is actually down and out right now with a shoulder. Okay, so he's got a shoulder injury. Same thing, different Same shit, different stink. I was trying to do it. I was trying to be politically correct with it. I couldn't find an easy way to do it. Anyhow, Jalen Tolbert, very similar things. He's in a questionable situation, but I do expect that he will play, considering that CeeDee Lamb hasn't played, or won't be able to play with the shoulder injury. If he does play, again, there will be an uptick in targets and receiving for him. So somebody to look at. Both guys are rostered 15% of leagues, 3% started for Jalen Tolbert, and for Brandon Cooks, 23% rostered because, again, consummate wide receiver, only started in 4% of leagues. So he's out there and available too. Well, these two guys are the obvious guys. So starting at Jackson Smith and Jigba on a day like today might be a smart move. Now, it also might be a terribly stupid move because I still believe in this secondary. I don't know where they disappeared as far as the Chicago Bears are concerned. I don't know where the secondary is gone, but I still believe in them. Hopefully, they believe in themselves and they can put a little bit of put the kibosh to a Jackson Smith and Jigba today. But let's just be frank. Just look at this track record. This kid's had 5 games under 15 points this season, which is crazy. That's huge, y'all. Right? That is huge. When it comes to fantasy football 2025, Jackson Smith and Jigba's name will be in that top 20 list, right? So keep your eyes peeled for Jackson Smith and Jigba next year. If you got him on your roster, good for you. Well done. Play him. I think he deserves just about that. Since we did touch on the quarterbacks, and you might need a backup quarterback if somebody's hurt, you can always look at this guy. All right. Matt Stafford had a terrible week last week in New Jersey, but I have a feeling he'll have a decent week in Arizona. So it's Matt Stafford. Take it for what it's worth. As long as his wide receivers are available, he'll get the ball to him. I'm not touching Bryce Young with a 10-foot pole. Sorry. Teddy Bridgewater, that means they're sitting Jared Goff, which may well happen. Keep your eyes peeled on that. And the other guys that they're going to talk about here is mainly a Joe Flacco potentially as backup capacity to Anthony Richardson. If you've got Anthony Richardson, go grab yourself some Joe Flacco right now. Or some Caleb Williams if he's available, which is hard to believe. Rostered in 63% of leagues, started in 26. Same token, you can do similar things with the guy Bo Nix, right? I trust Bo Nix.
Don't trust him in this next game.
What's that?
Don't trust him in this next game.
Well, I don't trust his team, but I trust him. I think he'll still wind up putting up decent numbers. And the reason for that is he gets it done on the ground too. He does. He's kind of like, I'm not even going to say what I was about to say. I slapped myself first. I can't even say it. I'm not going to say it, but look at the track record is really all I'm going to say. Look at that. 1, 2, 3. 3 games under 15 fantasy football points. 3. That's pretty nuts. That's very consistent from a Bo Nix, from a rookie that everybody kind of counted out and expected, not much would happen. I do know my guy, the King of Pop, kind of expected for him to come in pro ready, and I think he has come in exactly that way. So, good on Sean Payton for grabbing his guy and doing good stuff by him, right? So, if you need a guy, Bo Nix is now, I guess everybody's been listening to me about Bo Nix. Bo Nix is now rostered in 72% of leagues. Crazy. Started in 30. But if you ain't rostered in your league, go get him if you need him. He'll put up 20 points for you. Heck, at the very least, 50. Let's see. So we did QBs. We will look quickly at the running backs here, and we did touch on Michael Carter a little bit, so we'll leave him alone. Amir Abdullah, We can look here. Oh, you know what? Amir Abdullah's been putting up great numbers these last 2 weeks. He's facing a New Orleans Saints team. Oh, yeah. Like, under normal pretenses, I wouldn't suggest the Las Vegas Raiders defense to anybody. What it do, Smitty Q? But in this scenario, I'm gonna, because the New Orleans Saints are not in a good way right now. The quarterback is hurt. Their running back is hurt. Even Taysom Hill is hurt. You know? So if you're looking for interesting things to pop off this week, Amir Abdullah ain't crazy, and neither is the Las Vegas Raiders defense. Keep your eyes peeled. I think it's an odd good look this particular week. I would say similar things about Alexander Madison, except he's not. Oh, well, okay, 16 points last week against Jacksonville. Maybe the running back handcuff for Las Vegas is worth its weight this week. I wouldn't trust it. I would still just go with Amir Abdullah, to be frank with you. But outside of that, not a lot to talk about by way of running backs. We did talk about Trey Benson already. Zach Charbonnet's obvious. We talked about him last week. He will be playing against the Bears tonight, and I expect him to have a pretty decent game. The Bears have been terrible against the run for the last little while, like excruciatingly bad. Mind you, they brought in a big-bodied gentleman. What's his name? Ford? What's his first name? King of Pop, do you remember?
What's that now?
Ford, number 64, Bears.
Oh, Jonathan Ford.
Jonathan Ford. So they brought Jonathan Ford over onto the team. Big body, young youth. And he's filling space and taking on, becoming effective in that run game. So we'll see how well Zach Charbonnet and the Seahawks fare with him in that particular role. He has been playing quite well. Do have to give the young man a little bit of respect for doing so. So again, take a look at that. If you have Zach, I would start him against the Bears because once more, they have not played well against the run over the past 8 to 9 weeks. I think that kind of rounds it out for the most part. We will take a quick peek at tight ends here. I'm going to look at injured tight ends. David Njoku, Tucker Kraft, Brendan Strange, Juwan Johnson. We did talk about Taysom Hill a minute ago. Taysom's on IR. Will Disley's got a shoulder. Luke Musgrave's got an ankle. Mo Ali Cox has got a toe. Cade Otton's got a knee. Man, there's a lot of hurt tight ends out there in the league. So
I look at if it were me looking for a tight end to give me a splash, I'd be looking at Chig Okonkwo in Tennessee.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Chig. Yeah, man, you might want to take a look at the Chig. He's definitely worth a look if you're hurting in this particular position, because right now there's a lot of hurt, a lot of banged up tight ends. Chig Okonkwo is a great look. So is a Zach Ertz if he's available out there. He's available in my league. I don't know if he'll be available in yours. 62% rostered, 23% started for a Zach Ertz, but we all know what he's well and capable of. Similar things for Hunter Henry. I found Hunter Henry on waiver wire last week. Strangely enough, decided not to start him because I got Travis Kelce. Problem being, he kicked Travis Kelce's ass in points last week. So again, not one of my better decisions. 59% rostered, 28% started. If he's available, go get yourself some Hunter Henry. The other guy that would be listed here is Jake Ferguson. By all means, look, but I'm not going to really give too much of an advocacy there. I'm also going to say if you got Kyle Pitts, I feel for you.
Another one out there. This is kind of a precursor to next week, because the Ravens already played. Be looking for yourself some Isaiah Likely if you can get your hands on him, because you're talking about the end of the season. Pretty much, they have their, you're smart. Cured. They're not gonna want to keep putting Mark Andrew miles on them. You know what I mean? It's just they're gonna do some things different to keep guys safe. And so
Yeah.
just a look ahead.
Yeah, no, you're bang on with that one. Following week, if you guys are playing right up until week 18 and they're starting to sit folks, Mark Andrews could be that one of those guys who gets sat. And if that's the case, looking at Isaiah Likely as a brilliant look might save your fantasy week. And similar things to say. Avoiding Cole Kmet may also save your fantasy week. And I'm just going to look at this real quick here. Just the sheer number of targets makes this not worth your while. He's had 1-2 games this year over 5 targets. It's crazy. Just an abysmal season, and you can't even blame that on the tight end when he just never sees the football. So, if you're in a situation where you got to start Cole Kmet this week, you may want to do better and take a look in that waiver wire and find something else, right? So perhaps a Zach Ertz, perhaps a Hunter Henry, do what you can. But we will get a little bit of update on some of these guys. I do expect Will Dissly will likely play, and I do expect Cade Otton to likely play. But outside of those, and I do expect Juwan Johnson to play as well. Those 3 guys, but we'll see. We'll see if they actually make it through and suit up and give it a go. But yeah, I think that pretty much sums it all up for us here today by way of the Superflex show and fantasy football. What do you want to do here, sir? Normally we roll things out a little bit longer, but we're gonna roll right into pregame, I believe. So, did you want to just sort of do that, or what did you want to do?
Well, just let everybody know that you can come on over to into the live watch show, the pregame, live watch plus postgame that we do every single Bears game, and come on and enjoy yourself, man. Ain't nothing else to do on this game night. It's better than I'll tell you that. It's better than watching some of these commentators, man. We're gonna keep it real honest. But at the same time, it's fun. We just have a good time doing it because what happens when me and this guy gets together calling a game, it's going to be laughs. It's going to be some crying. It's going to be some, some things to look forward to. But, man, come on over. As soon as it's over, that show kicks off at 6:45 Central. So just come on over and enjoy yourself with us.
All right. Well, if that's the case, do you want to maybe we'll take 5. We'll call it a day here at this point. Shut her down.
This is Smitty. I think this is a very appropriate question.
It is
out of here. If you want to answer it, I'll think of what I need to say behind that. But
so, best gift that I got this season was family. Is really the answer to that. My son came back from Calgary. He's out there on a football scholarship playing for the Calgary Dinos. Shout out to Styles Lepage. Good to see you, bro. Son came back, kind of kicked it with us. We had some good family time with him and my daughter as well. And she's of age now. She's ready to move out and spread her wings and fly out of the coop or whatever you want to call it. We're getting old, and so are our kids, and they're starting off to live their own lives. But this time around, it was good to definitely sort of spend some time with them, and it's different because that's just sort of how it was before. They'd be here in the morning. We do the whole Christmas thing. It wasn't quite the same now, so it's a little bit different for me and the wife. But nonetheless, awesome to have them all home here, and good to have some family time with them. So health is good. Health is sketchy right now. I'll be honest, and not necessarily for me, but my wife's hurting, and my cousin. Shout out to you, Marsha. Big ups to Marsha. Marsha's in the hospital. She, out of nowhere, just started having headaches over the course of the last couple of weeks. And healthcare in Canada is a special thing. And a lot of the time, they'll just be like, hey, here's a Tylenol. Take that and let's see if it helps you. And that was kind of, for a headache, sounds pretty standard. You know what I mean? So she went home. She kind of took some Tylenol for first few days, and she was just persistent with it and kept going back. She's like, no, so I feel like something's wrong. Something's wrong. I got a headache. Something's wrong. And eventually they kind of took a good look, got her a CT scan and an MRI, and realized she had a cyst on her brain. Literally went into surgery on Christmas Day. It was like the worst, So haven't had the opportunity to check out Marsha. I do know she's up and about and she's out of surgery. She's doing okay right now. Got a couple of messages back and forth with her, but we're all pulling for her. So wanted to give her a little bit of love there. Just considering it all. But shout out to you, Smitty Q. Hopefully you've received the gift of health as well as hopefully the gift of family, if not something else. What about you, King of Pop?
That's great, man. That's great. I think the best gift I got was zero. It was the best thing that happened to me over the holidays is what I gave. I already told you guys about the custom picture I made for my mom. That was that's a mom picture, man. But my girlfriend happens to be, and I'll be real quick about this. My girlfriend happens to be. She's not an ungrateful person at all. She's very, very grateful for whatever I can do for her, but she's very, very picky. You know what I mean? I could get her the most bomb gift, and she will find something to be like, no, why'd you get that color? And it would be like totally deflating to whatever gift that you got her or gifts that you got her, and which she got multiple this year. It's totally deflating because she'll find a way to pick at whatever she got. This is how she is. And it took me some time to come to grips with that. And I tend not to, most years, I tend not to buy her anything. I let her pick her own stuff, and I just give her money. You go get what you want, because I'm not going to try to figure out what the hell you like and you don't like. And I don't like it when I get you stuff and you got to take stuff back and send stuff back. All that kind of stuff is deflating. It makes you feel like, as a giver, you didn't do what you needed to do. Just so happened this year. And just by the way, I'm going to tell you what she got me for Christmas. Really, she got herself something. Was a USB powered salt and pepper shaker, is what it is. So you just press the button and it just goes in, and it just sprinkles out salt and pepper over your food and all that kind of stuff, which is cool. But I'm like, how are you going to give me that gift and you're going to use that all the time?
That's a gift for you.
I'm like, that's what I got for this year. But I'm not I'm really a giver, man, when it comes to Christmas, man. I really enjoy giving. And this year I got her some stuff. And what was it? 4 things. I ain't gonna tell you everything that I got her, but one of them was a nice, purse or bag this year. One of them, and I hit every last one of them. It was like 4 or 5 different things. Every last one of them was a home run. She didn't take anything back. She didn't question anything. It was all good for the first time since I've known this woman, and I've known her quite some time. And so that's the best gift ever, other than the gift I gave my mom.
See, I like giving gifts too, and it really started with my kids. I used to spoil the heck out of them because, again, I could. But once they got older, I stopped doing it. And I mean, like, relatively young, but I just stopped doing it because I wanted to make sure that they weren't spoiled kids. You know what I mean? So what did I do? I turned around and started spoiling my niece and nephew. So they've gotten awesome, awesome gifts. This time around wasn't super awesome, just a little bit different, but I did get my niece just the coolest pair of roller skates. Cutest things I've ever seen. They're like pink and yellow plaid roller skates. They're dope. So as soon as I saw them, I was like, you know what? She's going to love these things. I got to get these for her. So shout out to you, ZZ. Shout out to you, Zelia. She got some awesome roller skates. She's going to be skating.
I love skates.
But yeah.
Shout out, Z.
Yeah, so that's the holiday season so far for me. I always get sucky gifts, but I appreciate them. So it is what it is. But we're on to the next, man. We got 7:30 right now, dog. So I think we're real close to a kickoff, if that's not right. Or do we got a half hour?
We
got a half hour.
About 30 minutes from now, 30 minutes from now, something like that. Yeah. I think it's about 7:15 or something like that. But go ahead and give your clothes, man. We're going to get out of here and tell everybody to come on over.
All right. Well, folks, been another SuperFlex Fantasy Football Show. Thank you for spending time with myself and the King of Pop. We appreciate it. Shout out to you, Smitty Q, for being down and representing with us. We're we will see you when we see you with the Bears show, when we do the Bears watch momentarily. Outside of that, happy holidays to all of you. We'll be looking at we'll be looking at a show on the 31st. I may be completely, as Ricky Leahy would say, 10 toes Jim Leahy face down drunk. But we'll do it. We'll do it on the 31st. We'll keep it short and sweet and just go through where we all are by way of fantasy to end the season, because that should basically be the end of the season. But I do want to give the entire world love for giving us love. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for supporting the network. And King of Pop, you going to take us home or should I?
Go ahead. I got you on the outro. Don't worry about it. Just give you peace and love, whatever.
Well, that's me giving peace and love, brother. Take us home.
We are out.